Hey guys, welcome back. I just wanted to jump on here real quick because I found an interesting thing. We just went through 4th of July, and I just find it interesting that nobody knows anything. So I wanted to share this with you guys because I thought it was interesting. So let's see here. This is something very interesting. Let's see if we can make it bigger just so everyone can see. Authenticated U.S. government information, public law, created on May 3rd, 1940. So it's chapter 183, joint resolution from Congress. I just wanted to read it to you guys. I thought it was very interesting. So it says, May 3rd, 1940, House Joint Resolution 437. It says, authorizing the President of the United States of America to proclaim I am an American Citizenship Day for the recognition, observance, and commemoration of American citizenship. Whereas some 2 million young men and women in the United States each year reach the age of 21 years. And whereas it is desirable that the sovereign citizens of our nation, I'm sorry, what? Sovereign citizens. Okay? So don't believe the fucking bullshit. Excuse me. Sorry. Gonna try to stop the cussing. Do not believe the complete nonsense that everybody around you is spewing. Okay? Especially those who claim to be the holders of law. Disgusting human beings. Anyways, whereas it is desirable that the sovereign citizens of our nation be prepared for the responsibilities and impressed with the significance of their status in our self-governing republic. Let's read that again. Whereas it is desirable that the sovereign citizens of our nation be prepared for the responsibilities and impressed with the significance of their status in our government and our self-governing republic. I also want to point out 1940, 8 years before the major overhaul began. 8 years before the major overhaul began. Maybe I'll go over that a little bit more later. I really need to start being a little bit more organized. I just get all excited and I'm like, hey, I got to show this to everybody. But I've also noticed quite a bit through my research with the law and everything else that things significantly changed in 1948. Okay, 1948. What else do we know about 1948? Okay. Not 1945. 1945 is when the war was finished. Okay, what happened in 1948? All right, so prepare for the responsibilities and impressed with the significance of their status in our self-governing republic. Therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled that the third Sunday in May each year. Okay, did you know that? Did any American know that the third Sunday in May each year be and hereby is set aside as Citizenship Day, and that the President of the United States is hereby authorized and requested to issue annually a proclamation setting aside that day as a public occasion for the recognition of all who, by coming of age or naturalization, have attained the status of citizenship. And the day shall be designated as I Am an American Day. When did you ever hear of that? Did you ever hear about the I Am an American Day? Observance invited. I Am an American Day, third Sunday in May each year to be so designated. Observance invited, not to supersede present practices of similar nature. I did not read this. I just saw it, so I'm reading it with you guys for the first time. And citizenship is already a weird term, but so that the civil and educational authorities of states, counties, cities, and towns be, and they are hereby urged to make plans for the proper observance of this day and for the full instruction of future citizens in their responsibilities and opportunities as citizens of the United States and of the states and localities in which they reside. Nothing herein shall be construed as changing or attempting to change the time or mode of any of the many altogether commendable observances of similar nature now being held from time to time, or periodically, but to the contrary, such practices are hereby praised and encouraged. Cooperation of the judiciary, etc. Section 2. Either at the time of the rendition of the decree of naturalization or at such other time as the judge may fix, the judge or someone designated by him shall address the newly naturalized citizen upon the form and genius of our government and the privileges and responsibilities of citizenship. Yeah. We don't have privileges, guys. We have rights. It being the intent and purpose of this section to enlist the aid of the judiciary in cooperation with civil and educational authorities and patriotic organizations in a continuous effort to dignify and emphasize the significance of citizenship. What? You mean the cooperation of the judiciary to ad hominem attack every patriotic American who puts their foot down for their constitution, for their rights, not their privileges, for their rights? May 3rd. Amending Public Resolution number 112 of the 75th Congress and Public Resolution number 48 of the 76th Congress. The life of the committee provided by Public Resolution number 112. And this is what they do with law, so that regular people, whom it is for the law, regular people, get confused and confuddled by all their BS language and lingo. Public Resolution numbered 112. Why don't you just tell us what the Public Resolution numbered 112 was? No, they don't want to show you that because now it'll be too clear and concise. They need to befuddle, like I said, mystify, ignorantize society so that they have no clue what they're reading. They're just like, Public Resolution number 112 of the 76th Congress Joint Congressional Committee to investigate the adequacy and use of the phosphate of the resource of it. Really, guys? Really? So that has nothing to do with anything. That's just something else. But did you know about the I Am an American Day? I Am an American Day. The sovereign citizens of our nation. How weird. And let's see here what this says here. So I'm going to share this tab real quick. I know it's stupid because AI is totally and utterly controlled by those same people. Shylock. So, I mean, you can use it as long as you're not stupid, you know. You have to understand that this is nothing but, a compilation, AI just compiles things together that it finds on the web. And we already know about how the web and everything else has been completely censored and controlled by those that shouldn't be, so that you can't be well informed. But I said, why would this act say that Americans are sovereign citizens? The I Am an American Day Act of 1940 uses the phrase sovereign citizens of our nation in its preamble to emphasize the idea that in the United States, ultimate authority rests with the people. Does it? Who are citizens of a self-governing republic. The relevant language from the act is, in this context, sovereign citizens refer to all Americans as the ultimate source of political power in the country. This is a reflection of the foundational principle of American democracy. Yeah, it didn't say anything. Oh, yeah, right there, republic. Governing republic. But it doesn't say that right there. This goes to show you. I might share a video or two from another gentleman that I like to watch because he uses AI a lot. Like, well, you know. He shows how effed up it is and how it sits there and lies to you and lies to you and lies to you. And even if you put forth the truth and everything, it will still try to lie to you. So it's very interesting. Of an American democracy when it clearly says right there, it's a republic. That the government derives its legitimacy from the consent of the governed and that citizens collectively are sovereign. No, citizens are sovereign. Collectively are not. This is the BS that they try to do that. So, and this is very interesting. This is very interesting because it goes into talking about the anti-American stuff that the judiciary, in cooperation, has now claimed these sovereign citizens to be. So it says the use of sovereign citizen in the 1940 Act is not related to the modern sovereign citizen movement, which is a fringe ideology that rejects government authority. No, it doesn't. It doesn't reject government authority. It questions what it thinks its authority derives from. And it clearly states right here that it derives from the people, period. With the people. Ultimate authority rests with the people. Okay? So how is that? This it goes to show you how AI is totally effed up. Government authority has no legal basis. In the 1940 law, the phrase simply highlights the responsibility and significance of citizenship in a republic where the people are the source of governmental power. And in today's age, where there's not one educated individual, unfortunately, that would fly. And that's why they have completely degraded our education so that you can have no clue what's going on. And have no self-assurance that what you know is to be true. And that's a whole thing. The act intent was to encourage Americans, especially those coming of age, to appreciate the importance of their role and responsibilities as citizens in a self-governing nation. What are you talking about? Not to confer any special legal status beyond that of ordinary citizenship. Regardless why would it use that verbiage if a sovereign citizen is a fringe ideology coined by the United States government? The I'm an American Day Act of 1940 used the phrase sovereign citizens in its preamble because it, in the context of American constitutional tradition, okay, guys? Not law, just tradition. Sovereignty is vested in the people, meaning the ultimate authority in a republic rests with its citizens. That's why we have a democracy now. Because in a republic, the ultimate authority rests with its citizens. This language was meant to underscore the foundational democratic principle that... this is what I mean, guys. This is what I mean. The foundational democratic principle that Americans as citizens are the source of the government's legitimacy and have the rights and responsibilities of self-governance. At the time the act was written, sovereign citizen simply meant a citizen who is part of the sovereign people, not someone claiming to be outside the law or government authority. The phrase was used in a general civic sense to emphasize the dignity and responsibility of citizenship in a self-governing republic. There's another video I watched the other day, which is really, really, really good, talking about lawyers and how all this started. Let's see if I can get that and put it up here because it's very important for people to understand what is going on. The modern sovereign citizen movement is a fringe ideology that rejects government authority and legal obligations. Did not exist until decades later. Wonder why? According to historians and organizations tracking extremist movements, the term sovereign citizen, as used by anti-government activists, see, they call anti-government activists, originated in the 1970s, specifically with the Passe Comitatus and similar groups. These groups redefine the term to support their anti-government and pseudo-legal beliefs. Talk about pseudo-legal beliefs, which have no basis in law and are not connected to the original intent of the 1940 Act. The Act's use of sovereign citizen reflects traditional American legal and philosophical language, not the later extremist ideology. Exactly. And the American legal and philosophical language came from the Constitution. You essing MFers. The phrase was meant to highlight the role of citizens as the ultimate authority in a democracy. Anyways, you can completely ignore all of this because the government did not coin or promote the fringe ideology. Rather, extremist groups appropriated and redefined the phrase long after the Act's passage. So how can one be self-governing if the government says no? That literally is an oxymoron. The concept of self-government in a democracy like the United States does not mean that each individual can do whatever they want without restriction. Rather, it means that the people collectively govern themselves through the mechanisms of representative democracy, law, and constitutional limits. So messed up, man. Key points. Self-government means that the authority of government comes from the consent of the governed, the people. When was the last time you consented? Citizens exercise self-government by participating in elections, creating laws through representatives, and holding government accountable. Oh, really? Oh, really? Oh, when was the last time you created laws or were able to properly hold your government accountable? Guys, BS. The government, in turn, is bound by a constitution and the rule of law. The Constitution is the rule of law. See how they like to divest themselves from the law of this land? These lawyers, which reflects the collective will and protects individual rights. Pfft. When the government says no, it is acting through laws and institutions established by the people themselves. No. If citizens disagree, they can work to change those laws through democratic processes, voting, advocacy, legal challenges, etc. Why it's not an oxymoron. Self-government to us means simply doing whatever we collectively as citizens choose to do. In a well-ordered republic, government of the self is necessary for government of society to work. That's just weird. How many times in a well-ordered republic, how many times do we see democracy, 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 democracy? Okay? Self-government is collective. No, it's not. It's not about individual autonomy from all authority, but about the people as a whole, setting the rules under which they live. No, it's not. This is what they freaking shove down your throat. Checks and balances. The system is designed to prevent any individual or group, including the government itself, from having unchecked power. Oh. This is achieved through elections, separation of powers, and constitutional rights. BS, and BS. So self-government is not an oxymoron because it is about the people governing themselves through agreed upon rules and institutions. Again, guys, when was the last time you agreed upon these rules and these institutions? Because as far as I'm concerned, out of all of the wonderful, what did it say here? Holding government accountable, from all the beautiful videos that I watch attempting to hold government accountable, that's not what I see. Okay? I don't see agreed upon rules and institutions. The government acts against the will of the people. Democratic mechanisms exist to change it. If the government acts against the will of the people, democratic mechanisms exist to change it. No one said individual autonomy from all authority. That, again, is stupid and misleading. As the founders of the American United States established, the country is established under God, the Christian God, law. No one ever purported to be under no authority whatsoever. Is that what the government is saying? That the American Constitution holds no authority from God? The question of authority in the American system, whether it derives from God, the people, or both, has been debated since the nation's founding. Here's what the historical record and scholarship shows. The founders' view of authority. The founders drew heavily on Christian principles and believe in divine providence, but they also emphasized that government authority comes from the consent of the governed. The Declaration of Independence refers to rights as being endowed by their creator and invokes God as creator, lawgiver, judge, and providence. This language acknowledges a divine source for rights and moral law. Exactly. But the you-know-who's came right on in and took that right on away But that's not new. That's not new. That's not new to America. It is historically recorded throughout time. Okay, because that's where we get this idea, this total bull about what law is. Okay, because where do you think, quote unquote, the law came from? Okay, this language acknowledges a divine source. However, the Constitution itself does not explicitly invoke God or Christianity. Really? Instead, it establishes a government based on the rule of law and the sovereignty of the people. Christianity's influence versus official status. Christian values and theology heavily influenced the founders, shaping their views on human dignity, liberty, and justice. The founders, however, did not establish the United States as an official Christian nation. They intentionally created a system that allowed for religious freedom and did not require government authority to be explicitly derived from Christian doctrine. No, they established it not as a Christian nation, even though they did, but Christian morals. Okay, Christian morals. From the Christian doctrine, Christian morals. And yes, they specifically put in separation of church and state because what did we just talk about 2 seconds ago? How they've been doing this since time immemorial. Just like when Rome created Christianity as its official religion or whatever BS because they wanted to take it over, to use it to control people. And where did they go? Rome is still there. It's called the Vatican. What do we call Vatican? We call it Rome. Why? Because they got into cahoots with each other. And they established the BS that we are all under still to this day. Okay? And that's why the founders wanted to separate church and state, because literally the church was the state. The church was the authority. And that's like what England did, because it was to be the king, to have all the law in the world and to do whatever the hell you wanted to do, you had to have divine sovereignty. Okay? What does divine mean? You're just so cool. That's just so wonderful. No, that means from God, stupid asses. Okay? So divine sovereignty was given by the Vatican, by the popes, the BSers, the other BSers, the vicars of Christ. The person who stands in Christ's stead here on earth, like total BS these people are. These people are total BSers, okay? That's why they separated the church from the state, just like England did. It was for a purpose. Not a good one. I mean, double-edged sword everywhere. But so that the church could not say, what was what. That's why, the whole Anne Boleyn scheme came in, the whole Protestantism against Catholicism, okay, is because the king no longer wanted the church to have power over him. So he usurped his divine authority. And, but see, this is what these people do. He initially was given the divine sovereignty via the Vatican, via his supposed line. And when, he wanted to do whatever he wanted to do, because, these psychotic people, once they're given, the taste of the devil, they go a little bit crazy and they think that they are God, and they do whatever they want. They do whatever they want, just like the king was doing in England. He was doing whatever he wanted to do. And the church still didn't care. It's not like they're moral at all whatsoever. They are disgusting psychotics too. But in order to keep a visual of some kind of moral integrity, they had to pretend, and they also had to maintain their own authority as the vicars of Christ. So they couldn't have people going against them like the king. But that's exactly what happened. And the king created his own church and created his own book so that, the church couldn't say no. And then, I just wish that people knew anything about history at all whatsoever, because, that's where we got the Magna Carta from, because then after the king decided that he had no authority over him, such as the Vatican, all hell broke loose, and even the people who were the elites of the day, in the king's court, in the king's chambers, in the king's privy, even they were getting a little like, what? Because this dude just started doing whatever he wanted. There were some kind of, rules and regulations prior to this. And then when those rules and regulations went out the window, the king was doing whatever the hell he wanted to do to his barons, to his elites, to his whomever, because he literally thought he was God. Okay, and so all those rich people all of a sudden were like, oh, shit. All of our stuff's being taken. All of our stuff's being taken. Now we don't have any rights to abuse and oppress other people. Now we are turning into the oppressed. No, that's not what we had in mind. So they went to the Vatican to talk about the Magna Carta. And that's when they said, well, you got to get the king to sign it. And of course, the king signed it under duress. We all know about what duress is, only for the barons. It's just ridiculous how some people just are so confused. Anyways, stupid stuff. Oh, God. Anyways, let's see. We'll go back. I am an American. Sovereign citizens of our nation. Oh, but don't you look back at that public law in 1940. That didn't mean nothing. And this is what is wrong with interpreting the law. Okay, that's why we don't have opinions. What was I reading just the other day where it said you do not have access to the first 8 amendments? I believe it was the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment. What was that? Gosh darn it. Anyways, I'll upload the video. Let me see here. And this was my tab before when I was looking up because, about jury nullification, but I cannot find that video that I watched so long ago where there was an old man. Like I said, there was an old man standing in front of a courthouse passing out jury nullification pamphlets. And there was another young guy who was just walking by. He was a documentarian, and he saw the cops totally ambush and terrorized this old man. He was an old man too, and they put him to the ground and everything. You know how we're used to. This is probably 15 to 20 years ago even, so it's unfortunate that we can't watch this stuff. It's also unfortunate that so many people who have no clue about anything, don't understand that this type of work has been going on since the beginning. That's why I read to you that 1866 book. Okay? Because it never stopped. You just were not ever taught about it. But I can't find that video, of course, anymore. And I just find thousands of others like this. Keith Woods or whatever. I don't know who he is. Michigan. See, this is what always bothers me. The people versus Keith Wood. There's no people. It's the fucking government. Who's the government? It's not the people. Guys, see, this is what I mean about all that BS that we just saw on the AI chat. Okay, because the government itself has usurped we the people, and it believes itself to be we the people. A 7-year-old versus the Supreme Court on nullification. That's interesting. The 10th Amendment Center. The 10th Amendment Center is a beast. And this is exactly what I mean. perfect example of what I was just saying. People have been doing this since time immemorial. That's why I read Eustace Mullins. Eustace Mullins was just some poet, tutti frutti nudie way back in the day, you know, and he happened to meet one of the most genius, you know, literary artists in the world, who by the Shylock was put into an insane asylum because he was talking about the Federal Reserve and the Shylocks and what they're doing. And he was put into an insane asylum. Let me see, who was that? I'll let y'all watch this real quick.
Now, I once explained to my 8-year-old, who was then 7, what the concept of nullification was. And I did that because
I hate when the computer messes up.
She's 8 going on 58. She's reading, like last year when she was 7, she read Little Women.
Of course it's going to do this. It always does this when I'm trying to share a video.
Like the whole book. Like, this is not a normal kid in a good way. You know what I mean? She amazes me, and I know you're all sick of, oh, here's another father bragging about his kids. I'm sorry about that. But she really is unbelievable, and she blows me away constantly. But she wants to know what's in her daddy's books, right? She's read, look, I just read Little Women. How hard could nullification be? Come on. So she wants to know, and I keep saying to her, you know, you got to be a little bit older, and then maybe I think you could grasp it. And one night, she had just had it up to here with daddy's excuses, and she said, I want you to try. I want you to try to explain it. So I did. And I just went like this. So I explained to her about what the government is. And I said, so what they decided to do was that they thought it would be dangerous if these people could just do anything they wanted. So what they decided to do was to compile a list of things they could do. And I kid you not, she said, but what if they do something that's not on the list? I told you, she gets right to the heart of things. And I said, well, that's
whatever. They're not going to let me show it to you because it's being jerkish. It's being jerkish. Let's see here. Yeah, look at that. American poet and critic, 1885. See, we were reading from 1866. And this is what I mean. Ezra Pound. Ezra Pound was the most influential literary artist in the world. Okay, look, Pound's contribution to poetry began in the early 20th centuries. And he also, he helped discover and shape the work of contemporaries such as H.D., Robert Frost, T.S. Eliot, Ernest Hemingway, and James Joyce. Oh my God. Actually, now that I'm just reading this, he was responsible for the 1914 serialization of Joyce's A Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man, which is very interesting because I read this in college. I was made to read it along with several other books. I have a bachelor's degree in philosophy and an associate's degree in political philosophy. So I've read quite a bit of this and I understand quite a bit. And I'm also an occultist. I've been studying the occult since I was like fucking 10. Unknowingly. It's just one of those things. So it's just interesting that he also helped A Portrait of the Artist as a Young man. And off subject, but when I was in college, these things everything is connected. That's why it's so hard for me to have a channel, because, I know everyone's always just like, oh, don't change your material, like what you're showing. And it's just like, everything is connected though. Like everything is connected. But in this class was an old man, and this old man was a philosophy teacher. And he, again, having studied the occult unknowingly since I was so young, going into college at a much older age, I was able to see what these professors were doing. And I'm talking about all of them, y'all. All of them. It is 100% the truth in reality that like weirdos are running the schools. They call them communists and Marxists and all this other, but it's straight up weirdos. All of them weirdos. And this old man teacher, he, made us read all these books. A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man was one of them. And I found it so very weird, because out of like the 5 books that he was making us read, every single one of them had some kind of inference of the Jesuits. And in these inferences, another thing about college that they don't talk about is nobody does anything in college. They all cheat and steal to get their way. So even before AI and chatbot BPTPTB, who is doing everybody's work for them now, even before chatbot was there to do everybody's work, as is happening today, students cheated so hardcore. Like that's what they were learning. I understood going into college later on in life that the key to going to college was not learning. It was learning how to cheat the system. It was disgusting. It was sad and pathetic. And even people now are starting to realize. I was just watching a thing about chatbot, and they were talking about how all these students are, oh, that's what it was. Yeah, there was a student who said that she's already graduated, but some of her friends that are still in college were bragging about how they got all these A's and passing all these things because they had GPT doing their work for them. And the woman who was talking about her daughter and her friends said, and I've said this a million times, as a teacher myself, being in the classroom, I can see 5th grade 11-year-olds can't read, they can't write, they can't compute, they can't cognate, they can't do anything but be on a computer and twerk. But anyway, so I thought it was interesting, because as I'm reading, the reason why I say that is because I read all the 5 books from front cover to back cover. No one else did. Just like they used to quote me, or they used to call me Reader Shauna at school, because I literally read everything. And these girls would always come to me at the beginning of class of every day and ask me what the reading was about, because no one would ever read. And I was just like, get the fuck out of here, losers. And of course, this is a freaking elite private school that all these rich ass mofos are going to and not getting one bit of education. But guess what? They'll get into those positions because that's what reality is. That's what life is. Okay. It's called nepotism. There's no merit in anything. So the Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man, I thought was very interesting. But these books all talked about Jesuits, and not like quietly, not blatantly, like secretly, but every single one of these books that I read had an inference of Jesuits. And in a lot of them, that inference was evil. It was evil. And what's so strange is, because I'm so stupid, like many of us are out there, we think that life is good, and that the majority of people are trying to be good. And, you think your teacher is there to help you expand your mind and enlighten your understanding of whatever. And so I came in one day, and, it was before class started, and everyone was getting, in their seats, whatever. And I'm sitting there, and I, turn around to my teacher, and I'm like, it's really weird, because all the books, I literally say this. It's before class starts or anything, and I'm totally stupid. I don't know. anything of this teacher, I think just so much of what you think, right? But so I turned to him and I was just like, Mr. Zanardi or whatever the fuck his name was, which I don't think was his actual name, but Professor Zanardi. I was like, oh, Professor Zanardi. It was very weird because a theme throughout all of these books that I've noticed was that these Jesuits are being painted as like bad people. I didn't say evil. I just said bad people. And he just looked at me with the nastiest of looks, right? The nastiest of looks. And he just walked right by me, didn't say a word, didn't nothing. And I was like, wow, that was weird. You know what I mean? And like the other kids in class and stuff just kind of like looked at me like, huh? They didn't know clue. Okay, fast forward. Okay, just real quick. Fast forward to the end of the whatever of our graduation, like when we're graduating or whatever, right? I had these two boys that I hung out with often, much younger than me. Like I said, I was older going to college. And there's these two boys. And we always spoke philosophy because they were philosophers, their major was philosophy. And so we would philosophize all the time. We would talk about it, and this is what I find so very interesting. So at the very end of the year when we're graduating, I find out that this young man is going into the whatever, I don't know what you would call it, into the priesthood. You know what I'm saying? He's going to become a priest. And when I heard this, I literally dropped my jaw to the ground and I was like, what? Because this specific dude was an atheist. We spoke philosophy on a regular basis. This kid did not know nothing. He was an atheist. He didn't know better. And he would tell us often that he was learning from our discussions. So when I found out that he was going into the priesthood, I was just like, what the fuck? And then my other friend that, was his best friend or whatever was just like, yeah, Mr. Zanardi recruited him into the Jesuits. I was like, what? Seriously, y'all. Like, y'all have no idea. I have so many stories. It's not even funny. But yeah, so that same professor who looked at me all disgusting and mean when I told him that the underlying theme of all these books that he made us read had a deranged, discolored, very evil insinuation about the Jesuits. And some of the books didn't even say clearly that they were Jesuits, but they were Jesuits. So I just thought it was so weird that at the end of the year, that same professor who ended up resigning, of course, because what a lot of people don't understand is they're getting rid of everything and everywhere. So not only do elementaries not teach anybody anything, middle schools don't teach anybody anything, college universities don't teach anything anymore. So all of my philosophy teachers, again, my bachelor's was in philosophy. Actually, it was interdisciplinary. So I studied philosophy and art history. Stop, baby. You're not getting a snack. You've had enough. No. So with a minor in English. So it was just, I just thought it was very weird. Anyways, yeah. So all of these people, all these famous people. And if you know anything about the Bohemian art, anything, which is very interesting because art has a lot of everything to do with everything. And people don't really know. Social credit. Angered by the carnage of World War I, Pound blamed the war on finance capitalism, which he called usury. He moved to Italy in 1924 and through the 1930s and 40s promoted an economic theory known as social credit. Wrote for publications owned by the British fascist Oswald Mosley, embraced Benito Mussolini's fascism, and expressed support for Adolf Hitler. Now, I don't know if I would trust anything that Wikipedia says, because we all know that Wikipedia is a total BS. Now, I used to read Wikipedia, which really sucks because I lose everything in life. That's just a theme. But when Wikipedia first started, it was actually a Christian thing. And I I used to work at this place called Money Box. And, you know, during your downtime or whatever, it was a cash checking place, you know, place like that or whatever. And under downtime, the one thing that the company itself provided was Wikipedia on the computers. So on all of our computers, our units, whenever we were doing whatever we were doing, it had Wikipedia as, you know, something you could do in your downtime. And the reason why the company had Wikipedia on it is because the company was a Christian company, which it actually wasn't. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But anyways, all right, let me see how long this has been, because this has been a while. But that's why I talk to people. That's why I talk about people like Eustace Mullins or, you know, things like that, because there's been people talking about this since a bajillion years ago, since the beginning of our times, and literally the bad people came and usurped it all. Let me see. During World War II, Pound recorded hundreds of paid radio propaganda broadcasts for the fascist Italian government and its later incarnation as a German puppet state, in which he attacked the United States government, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Britain, and international finance, the arms industry, Jews, and others as abettors and prolongers of the war. He also praised both eugenics and the Holocaust in Italy, while urging American GIs to throw down the rifles and surrender. See, so you can read this kind of like what's happening today with like the what was his name? The chant, you know, that just got that rapper dude banned from America. I guarantee you, well, even now in the news and stuff, they'll say stupid stuff like, oh yeah, he's a anti you know what, and he wants this right here, and blah 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 blah. So just understand that this is all conscripted too. Like all of Wikipedia is total BS now. I mean, even the founder and the creator of Wikipedia has made several, you know, interview videos about how it's evil now and that they took it over and how he saw it going evil, so he had to leave. Let me see here. Because Ezra also has, and this is very interesting too, because Ezra Pound had a brother who was in what? Homer had previously worked for Thaddeus in lumber business. Because he had a family member, I could have sworn it was his brother, who was working for the government on his father's side. The immigrant ancestor was John Pound, a Quaker who had arrived from England. Ezra's paternal grandmother, Susan Intervene Loomis, married Thaddeus Coleman Pound. On his mother's side, Pound was decorated William Watts, was Puritan. Anyways. All right, well, that turned weird and boring. So I will let you guys go. Oh, I forgot. I was live in here. Sorry, guys. I didn't know that you guys were commenting. I know, right? Government accountability. Have you seen the picture of the throne room in the Vatican? Yes, dude. I've seen it all. Trust me, guys. I've seen it all. I know it all. Yes. Thank you all for commenting and sharing and being here and looking at all this. I appreciate all of you. I'm going to try to come back with more like legal examples. I'm obviously terrible at this. I see something and I get excited and I'm like, oh, I gotta show my people. And then I just come on and do long, boring stuff, I guess. All right. Well, see you next time. I'm trying to do a little bit better. Love y'all. Bye.